Yeah.
Ryan, how's it going, man?
Hey, Jeff. Hey, great to be back.
Absolutely. I've been playing with my I'm trying out some new lighting. So my lights are still the same, but the other day I was on a call and I realized, so usually I have these two LED panel lights in my shed. And usually I can turn the temperature up, so like essentially the brightness. And usually this one is brighter, that faces kind of this way. But the other day I had the shed doors open and it was bright outside, so I was trying to compensate by having this one lighter so you could see me and I wasn't look like I was in a shadow. And then I realized for some reason that having the light on this side of me and a little bit of shadow on this side creates more of the effect that I kind of like in videos I see. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, try that out. Let's see what happens.
Oh no, I like that. I like the experimentation with all of the lighting. You know, actually, Jeff, I feel like I should bring something up that maybe viewers of the show have noticed. Definitely people that Jeff and I work with have noticed, which is Jeff has, and it came up today, Jeff has one of the best setups of anybody that we all work with. And he's got all of this amazing lighting, and you've got this a really great audio setup. I'm looking around here and I'm like, I'm barely getting by. Jeff looks like he's in like some type of really cool, like maybe some private like speakeasy or something, some type of a really like cool place that you're going to drop in. I definitely look like I'm in the spare bedroom at my house. So it is.
I mean, I do.
Really
to be
cool
fair,
setup.
I do have a beer fridge like 12 feet away from me in the kitchen island outside. If that helps.
Well, I'm telling. Oh no, I'm telling you, Jeff. We got to do a segment, or not even just a segment, but definitely on the Twitter feed. And I know that you've talked about this in the past, but I know a lot of people at Cisco have actually come up to you and said, hey, like, what's your setup? Like, how does your setup work? Like, especially if you're trying to do something like this at home. I know that a lot of people look at the behind the scenes, like how this stuff works, like whether it's a microphone or cameras or anything. It'd be great to have you put that up on Twitter.
Totally, yeah, we can do that. I would love to. It's it's interesting. Yeah. This is sort of organically grown out of the shed was, I built this shed specifically when we moved to this house. We have 3 bedrooms, which is a lot of bedrooms. Mm-hmm. It's a good amount. And the problem ended up being that one of our rooms is it's almost like 2 master bedrooms and then a small bedroom. So my son has the small one. And one of the master bedrooms is longer as opposed to just a big square. And so my wife and I initially shared the room. We had 2 desks facing each other, and it was fine. At the time, though, in the role that I had, I was in meetings all day. And she's like, we can't do this where we're literally like 3 feet apart from each other, and you're talking on calls all day long, and I'm trying to get heads down and get work done. She's like, I have to be out of the office to do this. So when we redid the backyard and I built the shed, it was out of necessity more than anything else. But over time, like doing shows like this, picking up little bits of gear here and there as you find that you can or you can afford it or you can do a little something. I mean, for the longest time, I just have 2 LED lights, like a canister lights in the ceiling of the shed, and that's what I used. Yeah. Except my shiny head was just glowing all the time. So I was like, okay, maybe I want something a little different than that. And then for a while, I had a tripod with my wife's old like umbrella, like LED light that she would use for photography that she's had for years, and it shoved it randomly into a corner so I could have a light. It was like just shoved between 2 things in a position so like don't breathe on it or it'll move. But hey, I had a light. No, literally, I actually bumped it once or twice on a video and it fell on my face because it was not secured in any way. So it's taken the better part of like a year and a half to get to where like, okay, I invested a little bit of money, get a little bit of additional lighting, what have you. But yeah, it's kind of cool to feel like that you can like over time grow into something that does this. But something that I noticed when I was going through all this is, and like getting to a point of doing something like this show is, you see something like, and I'm not saying that I have the best setup, but you see something like a setup I have. If you've never done it, it's the best setup. I don't know about that, but you see it in somebody else's feed, and you're like, oh my god, I clearly must have something like that, or else I'm doing crappy video, right? It's like, no, that's not the case. Like, this didn't happen yesterday. Like this has been building, changing slowly over the last year and a half to get to this point, and I'm sure I'll change it more in the future. It's when you're doing content, I think when you're creating content, and you and I can both talk to this, like, the most important, at least to me, the most important thing about what we do, like on this show or any other show, is can someone hear you? Can they clearly understand what you are saying? This, I mean, having a mic isn't even necessary. If you have one, like you have one, it's just out of frame, and I have this one. Yep. As long as people can hear you well, the video quality doesn't have to be amazing. If you want it to be because that's the thing you're promoting, I mean, fantastic, go do that. But it's not required by any means. People will consume content and enjoy your content. As long as they can understand you, you'll have an audience. That's all you need. Doing this is all just because I'm a massive geek for this stuff and I love doing it. That's really all this is. It is fun, but...
Yeah, but seriously though, it looks like you can sell tickets to the where you are at this venue.
I've recreated the Funko Museum from Hollywood, California. I've recreated a small version of the Funko Museum, so I have all my pops and my Funko. No, I'm kidding.
no, but yeah, I think that we should totally do like kind of like a backgrounder on this, because I know that outside of the chat that we have, and I see Rich is on the chat. Thank you very much, Rich, being a regular on the show. And yes, I am in. So yeah, I'm in the spare bedroom. This was the bedroom that became my office. But it is one of those things where I know that, Jeff, we've had people, and this is like, by the way, the topic is Star Wars grab bag. It could be Kessel chat grab bag. But I mean, seriously, I really do think we should do a little bit of a behind the scenes, because I know a lot of people have pinged you recently about your setup. And I've also enjoyed kind of learning about the lighting and the rigs that you had. I bought myself one of those ring lights, so that way it could work in here, and for viewers with a very careful eye, if you go back to some of the early episodes of the Kessel chat, you'll see that I have it up, except I have this ring in my glasses. And it looks like I am like a comic book character.
It is one of the hard parts about the ring. So ring lights are amazing. there's another caveat to a ring light, that if you get one of the like full size ring lights, the dang things are heavy. They are not light by any means. And if they're not on your tripod or a stand really well, they will fall over and they will hurt if they hit you. My wife found that out recently. She has one now in her office, and it fell on her one day. And like, think she was standing up, so it was like 6 inches, but she's like, that thing was uncomfortable. We both noticed though, and we've seen this in other videos. Ring lights are fantastic, especially if you don't wear glasses. They're a really good way, and you can have your camera like I have this Sony Alpha mirrorless camera, but it's not very big. It's maybe, I don't know, 5 inches. The width is like 5 inches. So even I have the screen flipped up so I can kind of see myself in it and verify that my video looks like what I want. But I don't need to. I could fold that down. It's not required for this purpose. So it would easily sit on. There's a little mount in a ring light in the middle. You've seen it, and most people who have ring lights know this. The ring is a circle, and then the stand comes up into the bottom. And on the opposite side of the stand, there's a little spot that comes with some adapters you can hook on like a phone clip, and they come with it. Or there's the standard camera mount that you can just screw your camera in there. That way, the ring is around your lens, and so you're getting lit from exactly where your camera is, which is fantastic. Unless you have glasses, and because in your eyes, it's harder to notice the little rings in your cornea or your pupil. But when you have glasses on, they're very reflective. And they look like you're staring at a UFO or something when you're on camera, if you don't have them set up properly. So, or if you don't, like, you can set them a little higher so they kind of shine down on you and create a different type of light, and then it works great. But yeah, when they're straight on with glasses, it can be a little distracting.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Rich, that's awesome.
Sorry,
the circle is now complete. I'll say this to Rich. I have for everyone who watches this show, they know I really work hard to save my Star Trek references until Rich is on. I actually had a Star Trek shirt that someone bought me as a gift, and I even thought, like, man, if I really wanted to go bold, that's coming on this show with a Trek shirt. And it's funny because it's like I love that. I will say this: I love that this is just a dedicated space. Like, as much as we'll talk about a lot of other things. Like last episode, we talked about things like The Last Airbender. We talked about so many other pieces of science fiction. Right. And I do like that we kind of start in Star Wars and we kind of branch out from there. That Star Wars is our sacred timeline. If you're watching the Loki show.
Oh, yes. We're not part of the branch. This is not a branch reality. This is.
Yes, exactly. But I love that this episode we wanted to do a little bit different. We wanted to do just kind of like a very different type of show. And Jeff, I feel like this is actually like really kind of cool because I know that it says above me Star Wars grab bag, but it's one of these things that we have had, like, I mean, whether it was even the way that we were starting today, where we were talking about kind of like our home setups and like how we do our audio and our video, or even just like how we start in Star Wars and sometimes end up even further down the road. And start talking and bring up things like Marvel or Loki, is that we had a lot of ideas for things that were going to be kind of future episodes, but they felt like, hey, why don't we just kind of take some of these ideas and talk to them? And we also wanted to give people a chance who are watching the show right now. If you had a comment either for this show or any future shows for things that you want us to talk about or cover, we were happy to kind of make it a full grab bag. And so, Jeff, I'm happy if you'd like, I can go through that kind of list of the things that we have.
I've got them queued up for us, but before we go through the list,
let's see if this
works. Let's do it. Remember to subscribe. There we go. We got it working. There, it's over here. There, down. Got a point. There he goes. It's over there.
Yeah, see,
it's over there
way,
somewhere.
That way.
So please do
right down there.
Exactly. We pull that back. See if I can pull that back up. There we go. Try it again. It'll run for just a moment or two.
Yeah, see, like, it's like, yeah,
exactly.
Right there.
It's right over there someplace.
Yeah.
Please subscribe if you like the show. If you like what we're doing, like it. The little bell notification. If you need the little bell icon that's on there, you can get notifications from. And subscribe to the channel. Like, it's really helpful for us. And we are working on, for everyone watching, we are working on. I've got it created, a new YouTube channel that is just dedicated to the Kessel chat. So I'm
Yep.
working on that. We're working on getting videos moved over there, and sometime in the not too distant future, we'll start doing our live streams over on that platform, or at least on that channel. For the time being, we're here, so no worries. We're not changing anything. We just want to move into a more dedicated place because Ryan and I also have some side videos we're working on producing that are sort of like snaps, little bite-sized pieces of the Kessel chat we each do about a certain topic for a period of time. So we're gonna work on getting those things to the new channel, but that'll be coming soon. So just a reminder, subscribe. It really helps. We appreciate it. Okay, now on to the topic. So yes, we had a series of topics that we have a huge grab bag, all kinds of stuff we can pull from. But I pulled 3 to start us off with that I've got queued up, and I'll put them on the screen here in a second. I'll put the first one on the screen. We can start there. Okay. But yeah, if you're watching the show, throw in the comments if there's something you're curious about, some topic you want to hear about, or that you thought about, like, no, we got to talk about this. Throw it out there. And if we don't get to it tonight, we'll put it in the list that we track, and we'll get to it in a future episode. Yep. All right, so question number 1. Here we go. Characters that deserve their own spinoff. I know we've kind of touched on this before, but we'll give it a few minutes. We'll go a few minutes on it. Ryan, do you want to? I know you have some very strong opinions about this one.
Yeah, I've got like a list. And I know that when we did this the last time, I actually came with a page of notes of characters that I feel deserve their own full series, like, or even just characters. It's like, hey, like let's really pour some time into this. And I even thought too, like there have been like some really fun side characters that have really been explored, like R5D4, the little red R2 unit, or astrometric unit, I should say, not R2 unit, but astrometric droid, that the fuse pops. It's got a bad motivator, and he's being sold to
Uncle Owen. This one's got a bad motivator. What are you trying to pull
exactly.
on us?
This one's got a bad motivator. That's a really that's like these are the types of like really kind of like fun little things that you can actually build really cool corner stories. Like there's a whole story about R5, about how R5 is actually connected to the Force, and that he blows the motivators because he knows that this is not his journey, and that he has all of these other adventures. And that's like how some characters can be such a side character, and then totally appear as a really fun like side item, or a small comic book story. But just 3 characters that I would love to spend more time with, and one of them, I actually the one group I actually think is probably going to end up in maybe the Boba Fett is we'll start with a group that I really like, which is, as I'm sure everybody knows, Empire, one of my favorites of the 9. There's a scene, of course, where Boba Fett is introduced, not in that movie, he's introduced in the holiday special. He comes out, and he's with all of these other bounty hunters. And Dengar and everybody, but the bounty hunters that I found to be the most interesting, and the one that I even kind of, when I was watching The Mandalorian, and I remember thinking, oh wow, like are they going to have Forlom come into this? Are they going to have Zuckuss go into this? I would love to see like a Forlom and Zuckuss kind of bounty hunters for hire type spinoff. I would love them to appear in the, if not their own spinoff, some type of Boba Fett show. They have no voices. They're almost an entirely, you could write so much into these characters. There is, yep.
IG-88.
Yeah. See, even the IG units. What's great about Star Wars is you can have these really like uber side characters like R5 or Forlom or anything, and then suddenly say, hey, like, what if we were to take this character and follow them all the way through? And I really like the idea. I've always liked the bounty hunters, and I know that kind of goes without saying, almost cliche now in Star Wars to be like, like the bounty hunters. George Lucas really enjoyed that. I know that he wanted to do an original television show on the lower depths of Coruscant where you're following bounty hunters. But I think it would be great to kind of have one character which is an alien, one character which is a robot. Zuckuss and Forlom, although they look alike, one of them's a robot. I'd love to spend a lot of time with those characters. I feel like it's just like it could be a very odd couple type. They're not even in the Empire said that they're partners. They're just standing next to each other. But it's enough to be like, hey, let's see where that story could go. I've always thought that they had a cool look. They have these like bug eyes. Definitely a lot better design than Dengar, who looks like his head is wrapped in toilet paper.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I'd love to spend more time with those characters, and I really hope that in the Book of Fett show, we actually get to spend a lot of time.
Let me hold on. Do you mean? Or see if I have it. Where's the book? Let me see if I have it here. Is this the person you mentioned? Let me try to find it real quick. I know, a little distracting on the show here, but...
Oh, no worries. Hey, while you're pulling that up, I'll talk about the other character that I would love to see in a spinoff. And that's from a video game that I loved. And look, maybe this is another reference to the Loki show. Maybe this is...
So I can see it.
Oh, yeah, Dengar with, when all else fails. You just wrap yourself up in
who is
he looks like he's going to Halloween. He's like trick or treating.
Yeah, and who's the guy he's with? This guy's with Dengar. It's a Showdown on Smuggler's Moon. This is part of the War of the Bounty Hunters series where everyone's trying to get Han Solo back. Someone stole him from. He's frozen in carbonite. Someone stole him from Boba Fett. Yep. He's trying to get him to Jabba, and so all these characters are like these little side adventures are happening in this series. But yeah, that was my first introduction to Dengar. Sorry, got a little distracted there.
Yeah. No, I love. It's funny because it's like Dengar was always like a weird character, and I know that Robot Chicken made him even weirder in their interpretation of it. But yeah, like. I always thought that it would be cool to spend a little bit of time with them, just because Zuckuss and Forlom have such a kind of a cool look. And again, I always like the pairing of the living person with the droid. I even liked that when we saw it in The Mandalorian. Whenever a droid would appear. With
Dr. Aphra. Dr. Aphra. Her two like very psychotic droids, like that pairing, the anti 3PO and R2.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the anti Luke Skywalker story right there.
Oh yeah.
That's the alternate version of them, because they're just out for themselves. But yeah, I'd love to do that. And then you bring up this in the kind of the War of the Bounty Hunters comic book series. There, one of the really cool things is they are talking about recovering Han Solo, who is in carbonite and then he's been stolen. One of the things that I would love to spend some time with is a video game that I played when I was a kid, and that I loved, and it was of course it was with Dash Rendar, and it was Shadows of the Empire.
Yes.
And so I would love to spend that, like, I'd love to dig into that character. That was like a really cool idea. I love the ship. I love the fact that it's someone who's not connected to the Force, and they're just, a simple man trying to make their way in the universe. I like the idea of the Rebel Alliance trying to find someone to be able to go out and save Han Solo, that it's not just like, gosh, I guess we're going to have to wait for Luke to come back as a Jedi, or Lando. Good luck, Lando, as you fly off wearing Han Solo's clothes for some reason. Good luck in trying to find Han. Both sets of my picks are from Empire that I really would like to spend some time with. Forlom, Zuckuss, and Shadows of the Empire, Dash Rendar.
I like it.
Yeah.
I was thinking there's two groups. There's a character and a group I was thinking. So the character, I have it written here on my sticky notes so I didn't forget, is Quinlan Voss. And he's not...
Oh!
Yeah, he's not super well known by a lot of people, but he hasn't appeared in a ton of places. But he was in, I forget which episode he was in, or he was in a handful of episodes of the Clone Wars with Obi-Wan. That's kind of where you first meet him, and he's I would say he's almost like the embraced gray Jedi in the Clone Wars, because, or like a real life, like thorough sort of like, he is fully gray. Like he takes some amount of pleasure in enjoying combat or tough situations or sneaking in and being a spy and all these things that are really supposed to be sort of the antithesis of what the Jedi are supposed to stand for. And it's called out by Obi-Wan. He's like, I don't know how you even get away with this sometimes, et cetera, et cetera. But the council still kind of allows it because, especially during the Clone Wars, he's doing things that they'd rather not do. And so they can kind of like, he can do them and they can kind of be like, ah, cool. Yeah, we didn't see that. We didn't see it happen because you're the only one doing it. So we're just not going to think about it. Which is just terrible. But in the Clone Wars animated series, like he's comes across as very pompous and like all that, but he's pompous and all that for a really good reason, because he's really good. Like he's very talented. He's very, like, he's not overly powerful, but he's insightful. He understands situations. He can read them. He's pragmatic. He also has a book spinoff called what was it called? Dark Disciple, where he gets paired with, or he ends up pairing himself with Asajj Ventress, to try to track down and kill Count Dooku in an attempt to end the Clone Wars. And in doing so, he ends up falling to the dark side. And what brings him back is, spoiler alert, Asajj dies at the end of it. They don't kill Dooku. We know that he doesn't die. But what ends up happening is all these things go through, and he ends up having to kind of learn to embrace parts of him that are the dark side, because according to Asajj, the only way he will be powerful enough to fight Dooku and confront him is by embracing some of the dark. Like, that's the only way that he'll be able to do it. And he ends up falling to the dark side, and a love story, inadvertently, like a challenged love story, comes out between the two of them. But it's an interesting tale, because in the end of it, he kind of has his own redemption arc where he realizes, this is not how I can be anymore. I need to be the Jedi that I'm supposed to be. And we don't really hear his story after that, but it's a really interesting, it's a very much a hero's journey in that regard, because he has his challenge that he has to deal with, and then there's a tragedy at the end, and that tragedy is what spurs him to go do the thing he knows he's supposed to be doing. And ever since I've seen this character, he's got almost kind of dreadlocks. He's got the yellow tattoo across his eyes, which is super cool.
Yep.
He's just a really interesting character in that regard. And I'd love to see more of these individual Jedi that don't just conform to what we typically think of as Jedi in the stories we've read or that we've seen, and see how did they go about these things? How did they live their life? What did their time look like? And that idea has been bolstered even more for me. Like, I finished reading the Rising Storm, which we'll talk about later as far as our giveaway is concerned. And in that, you like, when there's thousands and thousands and thousands of Jedi across the galaxy, there's Jedi temples. It's 200-300 years before Anakin's born. There's Jedi temples everywhere. Like, most Padawans are not raised and trained on Coruscant. Like, that's not even where most Jedi are trained and raised. Only some are there because that part of the galaxy, it happens to be where the council is, partly that's where the council is, but council members are actually permanently assigned to outposts or to Jedi temples across the entire galaxy. So more often than not, the Jedi Council doesn't actually even meet in person all of the time. And so what you get to see is in these stories is Jedi who are very distinct in their personalities and very distinct in how they go about what they do every day. And it's fascinating because we get to see a bridge there between what we saw is, this is what the Jedi used to be when they were really, really amazing and fully embracing what they were supposed to be. And now we get to see in like characters like Quinlan Voss, not that they have fallen, but look where the Jedi Order has kind of degraded to. Like, they've gone through so much that they've lost a bit of who they're supposed to be to even allow this sort of thing to happen. Like, Jedi of old would never have allowed themselves to even touch the dark side for the attempts of, like, to get Dooku. Like, you shouldn't be trying to kill Dooku. No, you shouldn't be trying to kill anybody. Like, Jedi don't ever seek out to kill somebody. On top of that, to use the dark side to do it is just like, nothing about that would be something. It's a complete antithesis to what it's almost sort of like a parallel universe story in canon to what this is what you're not supposed to do and why they're not this way. Like, it's almost a fall from grace type story, which is really fascinating to me.
No, I really like this. I really like this. I think Quinlan Voss is a great pick. I'm wishing now I would have picked him. But I will say, and I was checking this out as just to confirm, because I wanted to say this and then be like, man, like, I don't want to be wrong on this. But Quinlan Voss is another one of these characters that comes out of a person that's in the background. An IG-88 type, because there is an extra and I had to go and check to make sure about this. It's in Phantom Menace, and I thought, is it Phantom Menace or is it the original Star Wars? That there's an extra who's actually sitting in like a table on Tatooine, and they have this line across their eyes. And George Lucas just loved the look of that and said, hey, you know what? That guy, we're gonna, like, it's just like what you were saying, Jeff. The look, it's a compelling look, and it was enough to be like, we're gonna make the look of that person and this background player into a full character. So just like with a lot of these, like, what character do you want to have your own spinoff? A lot of times it can start with just someone who's in the background at a table. Yeah, I love what they've been able to do. Quinlan Voss has appeared in multiple novels, and a number of different Star Wars adaptations. And he's kind of like a character that I think a lot of people, you might not know everything about, but I think there's definitely enough interest in there to really have, like, following a rogue Jedi who's trying to survive after Order 66. So yeah, I like that a lot.
Let's see if this works. Nope, it's not working. I was trying to see if I could do a screen share so I could show you show everyone his picture, but I couldn't pull it up. That's okay. But yeah, I pulled up the image on Google, and sure enough, yeah, you see him in the background, like at the back of a cantina. He looks a little ominous, just sitting back there. But yeah, that's really cool. I dig that a lot. Okay, so the other group I was thinking of for this is, and I can't think of all their names. It's in the Star Wars Aftermath series. So this came out in the journey to, I think it was called the Road to the Force Awakens, or the Journey to the Force Awakens. So prior to the Force Awakens coming out, about a year before, they started releasing books, comics, print books, everything, as these stories to get us ready for the Force Awakens and the new revamping of Star Wars. And in that, one of the books that came out was Star Wars Aftermath. And in Aftermath, it tells the story of Operation Cinder isn't mentioned, but it tells the story of, like, some of the final battles of the Empire before the Empire fell apart, like like battles on Jakku. So, like, when you see when you meet Rey in the Force Awakens, and she's sitting next to an Imperial walker, and that she's scavenging in the Star Destroyer, what Aftermath does is, in that tale, the battle that happened that crashed those things on the planet of Jakku, that is described in this series. It's a trilogy, and you kind of lead up to it, and the Battle of Jakku happens there, and then sometime in the future is when we meet Rey. So it's a really interesting, kind of ties those two stories together. But in that, one of the small groups that they follow around is characters some of the characters we actually do meet later on, like Snap Wexley. So if you've if we've watched the Last Jedi and the other, Snap is one of the other Imperial pilots that's on screen a lot with Poe. Stockier guy, a little bit taller. He's an X-wing pilot. He's featured in this story as a little kid, and his mom goes looking for him. She had gone away to work for the rebellion. Now she wants to go back and be mom again, and she tries to go find him. And he's like, "No, I'm living by myself. Like, I'm a 16-year-old mom. Where have you been? What the hell's going on?" And so it follows her trying to get her son back. Her son's got like a B1 battle droid. B1. I think it's the B1, the Roger droid, that he's cannibalized into, and he's reprogrammed into a protective droid for himself that he calls Mr. Bones, because he wears bones and stuff hanging from him, and he's a little cuckoo bananas, but he carries weapons and stuff. He has, like, metal arm, like blade arms, and, like, in the series several times, Mr. Bones comes in and he's like, "Death and destruction!" And he comes in and just, like, tears everybody apart to protect Snap.
Oh wow!
But they're paired with a group of people that like the clumsy group that's put together, the ragtag group that has to go do something, don't really want to be together. It consists of a guy named John Burrell, who's from the Republic military. He's like a heavy fighter, kind of a schwarmy sort of guy, but also a good character. And I'm trying to remember the other two characters' name, but the other one is a bounty hunter. She is a she's from Dathomir. What is their race? I can't remember their race. Like Darth Maul's race, where they have the spikes in their head. I can't remember from the planet Dathomir, but they have another name, and I can't remember the name of the race. But she's that race, and then a third person who is something Sanjeet. He's basically a ex-Imperial security, ex-ISB agent. So like the secret agent who would go in and torture people and get information, whatever else. He's ex-ISB. And what's interesting is that the group comes together out of no real love of each other, but to help they end up forming these really interesting bonds because all of their unique personalities that don't really make them really not fit with the groups they were originally part of actually make them work well together. But it takes a few books for them to realize that. It's really fascinating because they introduced one of the characters is gay. The other two of the characters like each other, but they don't want to like each other because their personalities constantly. Dath and Marion, thank you. They constantly want to butt heads with each other. You have a mom looking for her son, and her son doesn't really want her babying her anymore, but he wants to feel like the adult part of this group, and they treat him different. So it's like very dysfunctional family, but they kind of realize that it just works for them to be together towards the end of the story. I would love to see a group like that get their own tale of like how they do it, not how they make it work. What happens when you're trying to make it work? Because it isn't just like, let's see how you made it work. No, that's not how those situations play out. Like you didn't just make it work and look, now you're all happy. No, of course not. You were actively always trying to make those relationships work. They become dysfunctional and refunctional. And what would it look like to see those people trying to go about? They're not trying to be anything. They're not trying to be like good guys or bad guys. They're just trying to stick together and do something more than they could do by themselves. How does that even play out? Like, I don't know. Something about that idea of like real people, almost like a real world sort of thing, which I normally hate. But the idea of that, for some reason in this case, seems really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I actually think simpler tales told in a big space, battle setting actually work really, really well. Because I think that a lot of times, and it's funny because I see Rich's answer there too, and I was like trying to find out, I was like, there is a Z, what is it? It's like Zabrak or something like that. And I even had to go and like look it up.
That's what I was thinking,
like,
Zabrak. I
think Rich is right. Rich is right, but yeah, it's like I couldn't remember. I was like, there's also another word. And yeah, it was just like driving me nuts because I was like trying to figure this out.
That's what it is.
And but yeah, the thing that I like about the idea that you're talking about as far as a spinoff is I like simple stories, because sometimes simple stories told with a crazy big background, those things work really, really well because those are character-driven pieces. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite really big movies that's got a very simple story is Aliens. I love Alien. Alien and Aliens is like Star Wars and Empire. One of them is about execution of an idea, and one of them is about execution on film. Like one of those is just better than the other, you know. And but both amazing movies. Both one where it's like the sequel can't eclipse the original because they're just both so different. And so Aliens is a really basic story. I mean, Aliens is a basic story. It's the haunted house story. It's the don't go in that house on the hill story. But I love Aliens because it is a very simple story. It's a story about someone overcoming their fear and rebuilding their family. In the end, and honestly, like that whole story is built to do that, is someone who is so ready to finally overcome their fear, take ownership of what they want to do, and then build their family and protect their family. Mm-hmm. And that is, I'm saying family so much, I could be in Fast and Furious movies. But it's,
we're not doing that on this show. We're not doing.
Let me tell you about Fast and Furious in space.
No. Bad. No.
So the cool thing about that movie, though, is that it's a really simple story. You have Ripley, who is lost in her life, has experienced this terrible trauma, and is now having to kind of come to terms with the things that have frightened her, that that keep her awake at night. She's lost her family. She's a person out of time. She has to build a new family. She does that with Newt. She does that with Hicks. It's actually a terrible tragedy what happens in Alien 3, just because I feel like they ran out of ideas.
Yeah.
But it's a simple story of someone overcoming their fear and building a family and then protecting them at all costs. And it just happens to be set in space with pulse rifles, and a giant alien queen.
Exactly.
But that's where I think Star Wars does its best. I mean, you look at Luke Skywalker, and he's a farm boy. These are the hallmarks of it. And the story that you're talking about is that family story. The things that you do to save the people that you love, and to protect them.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I think that always works well. And character driven pieces are the best.
They really are. They really are.
No, absolutely.
All right. Shall we move on to question 2?
Yes.
Question number 2.
Let's go for it.
Ready? So we have the 2.
Yeah.
But this came up the last. Okay, the other one is favorite Clone Wars story arc. So we could do both of these. But this one came up the last time. I think you're the one who actually came up with this. And as soon as we both were like, wait, what? And I think we're going to piss off like a ton of people by even implying that might be the case. But I kind of really like this idea.
Oh, yeah. So for those of you who are hearing this maybe for the first time or didn't see the show last week, one of the things that we talked about was things that we might be looking to fix, or maybe a one great change for Star Wars or a specific episode. And we talked about a lot of things. We talked about episode 1 and certain things around show not tell. But one of the things, and I will say this is a thing that I often talk to my wife about Star Wars, and she's got to listen. When it's not the Kessel chat, it's the Ryan chat here at my house that my wife has to be burdened by. But my wife and I talked a lot about this, which is that it always stuck out to her that Padme had lost the will to live. And another great robot chicken joke, I think it's the Dr. Ball, where it's like, she's lost the will to live, use all this medical technology, come on, that you can't say that. But one of the ideas, and I'm not the originator of this idea, but it was something that we in my household, we had talked about this as a potential. I know that a lot of other people have talked about this, which is that it's not that a really great thing that could be happening is that Padme is dying because her connection with Anakin is so great. And we know that type of Force connection can exist, or at least has been made canon between Kylo and Rey. But to be able to have two people, and one drawing the life force of another to stay alive, or that the Emperor is helping them do that, that the Emperor is helping to keep Vader alive by siphoning the life force away from Padme, and that if anything, you could have changed episode 3 and had a really great moment where they're saying, we don't know why she's dying. That's actually an even better line. We don't know why she's dying. There's something that's there. And you got all these Force users that are there that can basically be like, I feel it. It's the Force. And there's no shield. There's no like box you can put her in that protects her from that. And they would have to then sit there. I mean, talk about, I know this is kind of a downer. Episode 3 is a big downer, but think about the desperation where you can't stop someone. And then it becomes all that much more important to deliver the Skywalker twins, because now they can't save Padme, but they can save their children's lives, and that's a decision she can make. Give her even more agency in that moment. A lot of things in episode 3 happen to Padme. I would have loved to. I like this because if it is happening to her, give her choices to make. Mm-hmm. If she wants to be able to say, "Well, I'm going to save my children," rather than it's just a coincidence that Anakin's becoming Vader, she's losing the will to live, and by the way, the baby's on the way. All of those things feel too coincidental. I really like the idea of the dark side is actually the thing that's killing Padme.
Two things you made me think about. Well, one of them we talked about a bit last time, and why I really enjoy the idea of this from a movie story perspective, and how it could have greatly enhanced the tragedy and the conflict. Or the tragedy that drives the conflict, and actually vice versa. Mm-hmm. Conflict that creates a tragedy, which then drives an additional conflict. What it can allow for is Padme is basically, unbeknownst to her heart and her emotions are willingly giving herself to Anakin, and have been for years. And what Palpatine has been doing is stoking the fire of Anakin wanting to be more, be more, be more, and doesn't realize that him doing that, he's forgot, he stopped recognizing it by doing that.
Yep.
He is embracing the dark the entire time, a slow burn over a period of time. It's not just like go to the dark side tomorrow and be hateful about things. No, it's a slow progression, and so over time he is slowly siphoning off these things from Padme, which culminates in this thing of like, Anakin, you're breaking my heart. I'm just trying to help. Okay, but you're hurting me, but I'm just trying to help. And she wants him to be with her where there's so much that she's like willing to, like the Force is actually seeing, oh, well, you're willing to give up. Cool. I'll just give it to him. And he's like, but I'm trying to help, which is inadvertently siphoning all this stuff into him. And so when she gets there and Obi-Wan's there too and sees it happening, they're like, we don't understand. We don't understand what's happening to her. And then you see Obi-Wan like touch her or have him do something like that and realize, like have a moment where he sees a flash or of Anakin or whatever else and realizes this is what's happening. Anakin is doing this and he won't let himself see it. That then drives a conflict. So that creates even more powerful emotion and motivation. So when Obi-Wan goes to meet with Anakin on Mustafar and they have their duel, it becomes less about Obi-Wan showing up saying, I'll just do what I've got to get done. I'm just here. And he's like, the other guy's like, Anakin's like, ah! And Obi-Wan's like, I'm just going to do what I have to do. No. Obi-Wan should have more powerful emotion at that point, but more powerful emotion it could have created this situation where he was almost more, not more powerful in the sense that normal sense of the word, but more the antithesis of the dark. And he is the quintessential Jedi. He is the light combating the dark, not you're my brother and I got to do something about this because, dude, I don't want to hurt you, man. I don't want to hurt you, but no. I am now doing this because you have fallen and you have taken a life. And for that, there needs to be a conflict. And the two of them, it could have been the light bringing the light to the dark. And when it ended, you hear the yelling of like, you were the chosen one. What did you think? That puts that into such a different context. I think it makes it feel even more painful that when you see the Darth Vader the next time with Obi-Wan, you're like, oh my God, he's even worse. It makes him an even worse character because he's not just evil for the sake of being evil. He's not just the dark side guy in a suit. No, there's something even more here to that tugs at your heart than before. Like, no, you are just a pile of because of what you did to your wife. Whether you knew it or not, you still allowed that to happen.
Oh no, I mean it makes the line, you will not take her from me, you're doing that yourself. It makes that line a lot stronger. I also think it supplies, there's always been a line that I feel like the prequels didn't help to kind of resolve, which is it's in Return of the Jedi, and it's Obi-Wan is talking to Luke, Master Manipulator Obi-Wan Kenobi talking to Luke. And he's I'm not joking around, dude. That watch that scene, he gaslights Luke. Well, then the Emperor has already won. He says this thing to Luke. He says, the Emperor knew, as I did, that if Anakin was to have any offspring, they would be a threat to him. And I've always thought, like, wow, like that's kind of a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity to not give a little bit of background. Like, why would Anakin having offspring be a threat to the Emperor, be a threat to Anakin? And I kept thinking, well, you know what it is that if he is alone, if all Anakin's ever wanted was to be in a family, was to have this connection, and he loses his mother, he is responsible for the loss of Padme so he can be alive. It's like, if you're telling him that, it's like a damned curse. You know what I mean? And if he thinks that in not only him doing that, he's living a damned life, but he's also stolen the life of his own child. Oh snap! Dude, that makes that reason why Vader is willing. He's not wanting to kill Luke and Empire because he's already traded too much to get to where he is, and he needs to get rid of the shackles of the Emperor. And I know that a lot of comic book series have looked at that, and a lot of novels have looked at that, the rivalry that's privately happening between Vader and the Emperor. But I always think that why not make it a little bit more personal, while at the same time giving Padme a lot more agency, maybe giving her having her understand the situation and making choices rather than having things just happen to her, and then possibly even having her be the one that delivers Leia to Alderaan. So that way you can also have a nice payoff of Leia's baby memory, her impossible baby memories, as Pitch Meeting says, where Leia remembers a woman who was very beautiful, kind, but sad. I think you get a really great payoff like that.
Yeah.
And so it all can start with right there, that the Darth side is the one that is really the thing that's draining the life from Padme. And
I like
my wife and I, we just didn't buy it. I don't have lost the will to live.
I know, like a lot. As soon as you said the alluded to the robot chicken, which I haven't seen that particular robot chicken part of Star Wars. What it made me think, it was like some like very chill doctors in a room sitting there like in a parody going, "Robot, she lost the will to live. Oh man. Yeah. Well, all right. Guess I'm gonna go get some dinner." Like walk out of the room. Like, what do you mean she just like no ER ever goes. A person goes, oh. Well, sorry everyone. They just lost the. I saw it. I saw it happen. They just lost the will to live. Okay, we're done. Pull up the intubation. We're good. Like that is not how that works. Like you're this highly technically advanced society, and like you have this mystical robot thing that is somehow magically delivering babies with no blood or anything like that out of Padme, and you're just gonna go, oh, well that sucks. She just
we don't know why she's dying.
I have a dashboard in Grafana up here that tells me the will to live. Oh well, shit.
Yeah. And I'm buying into everything else. I'm buying into a life for a force that is generated by all living beings. I'm buying into all that, and that was where I was like, "You lost me, Star Wars."
Yeah,
she lost the will to live, and that's why it's like
And Yoda's on the other side of the glass. He's like right there. I'm like, it's Yoda. Like, how are you sitting there going, well, this is totally feasible. I totally get it. Like, I guess I have to meditate on this for a while. What the hell do you mean? Just save her life. What is wrong with you people?
No, it doesn't make any sense. I feel, and in Dr. Ball, which it's the medical ball that is on the Death Star. That's why it's Dr. Ball, and it's like done in like the 1970s like medical dramas, the television medical dramas, and I'm escaping the one that I'm thinking of right now, but it's the ball like floats by. He's like constantly floating by, and when they're like, she's lost the will to live. Are you insane? Use some of this amazing technology that we have. What is this? Are we gonna put leeches on her next?
Time for another bloodletting.
Yeah, no, exactly. It doesn't make any sense. I almost wish that there was a scene of like Yoda looking at Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan going, like maybe we shouldn't have gotten on this asteroid. They seem to just be able to dig holes here,
dude. Or even better, like the two doctors, or the medical droid and a doctor, are in the room with her, and one of them they're doing something. The two Jedis are standing there. They're doing something, and like an IV pops out, and all of a sudden her heart just stops. And like, what's happening, guys? Yeah. She lost the will to live. I don't. And the two Jedi. And then you see Obi-Wan lost the will. What? I couldn't explain it. I don't know what. Just hide that.
No, I feel like this was one of these things where and I don't know if this is true, but I've heard, and I think even Hayden Christensen said this. I could be, again, this is all speculation. Is that Tom Stoppard, who wrote like Shakespeare in Love and wrote Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, is an amazing writer, amazing stage writer. I want to say there's probably a Pulitzer that he's got. He's just great. He's a great Shakespearean author, and if I'm right, he was brought in to help punch up a little bit of episode 3. And that's why you get a lot of the Hamlet type items where Hamlet is what do I do, like do or do not, like I'm just so weighed down by my decisions, and then in the moment Hamlet makes the worst decision, and he does exactly the wrong thing, which of course sets him down this path that now he's just like, it's as if he's like, hand me that shovel so I can dig the hole deeper. And that's Hamlet. And in Hamlet, you have you see Anakin. He does that with killing, helping not to kill, but helping to thwart Mace Windu, who's trying to do the right thing, or maybe the wrong thing for the right reasons. And you have Padme, who's being set up to be Ophelia from Hamlet. And in fact, even at the end, as I'm sure everybody's probably seen that, where she looks like she's in water, Ophelia famously kind of loses the will to live in Hamlet and goes kind of crazy, because she goes crazy, and because of all these horrors that have happened to her that Hamlet has brought, and drowns herself. Spoilers for Hamlet. That is exactly why Padme looks the way that she does, with even the flowers in her hair. That's a thing that Ophelia's got, is she's got the flowers in her hair, and she's in all blue. It looks like she's drowned. It looks like she's been lost underwater, and that's okay for Ophelia. It doesn't make any sense for Padme. She's got too much agency, especially from episode 1. It would have been great to give her a little bit more of, like, if she's a victim of circumstance, give her some choices she can make. Have her be like, well, then screw this. I'm not letting my kids die. So,
by the way, I think as a tangent, I think you answered the question, and we apologize in advance for all the Star Wars spoilers we've had. Ryan answered the question of how long do you need to wait once something's been published before you can do a spoiler. It's 400 years or 410 years, give or take. So Hamlet. Apologies, we did spoil that, but it has been 400 some odd years since it was written, so I think we're okay on the spoilers a little bit. If you haven't seen it and performed or read it yet, I'm sorry. You probably should have done that already.
So
we have a while to wait before we can spoil anything for Star Wars.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, yes, are in fact dead. By the by, and this is a totally different tangent, I got on a internet amount of searches on not just on a related thing on when can you spoil something. I actually found out something really interesting, Jeff, which is Disney's ownership of like the public domain of like, when does Star Wars go into the public domain? Mickey Mouse, or at least parts like Steamboat Willie, gets into the public domain in 2 years, and it's one of these things where the Kessel chat, maybe in our lifetime, might be the Star Wars branded Kessel chat, which I think is funny. And I think at that point, spoilers be damned. If it's in the public domain, it's in the public domain.
Exactly.
But I thought that was funny. I was learning about how Disney is working overtime with lawyers to try to protect all of their properties.
This is a tangent, and not to beat up on Disney too hard, but they're the reason why copyright law exists for the period of time that, like, it'd be prior to Disney lobbying to get the law changed to be extended for the length of time that it exists now. When you get something copyrighted, prior to that, it was like 50 years. It was basically written as like the common lifespan of a person, which at the time they put down, the years they put was like 50 or 55 years. And once it was done, your work went into the public domain, because they assumed that after that time period, you have exhausted everything you can possibly get out of it, allow for derivative works. And Disney specifically, the company and the man, lobbied to get that law changed. And then prior to that, he pulled things like Steamboat Willie, which is not a Disney property. He did not create Steamboat Willie. It was around before Disney. It was around for a long time before Disney had anything to do, Walt Disney, anything to do with it. And most other characters that now we think of as Disney were never Disney things, but he pulled them in. And they're freaking out that they're about to lose their exclusive ability to do things with these characters that they arguably shouldn't really have copyrights on anyway, because they were basically public domain before that was really codified. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
You, right? We just got. We're gonna get in trouble now with Disney. Someone's like, hey, they're putting out the dirty laundry on our copyright discussion. But I'll
don't
tell
worry.
you,
Adam Ruins Everything did that on one of his shows a while back, so we're safe. I just get that from him.
I like this comment here. The thing that I think is great is we should. It would actually be hilarious to kind of talk about this, like when you'll be able to write your own Star Wars story and actually utilize, Luke Skywalker by name. I know that there's a lot of fan films that seek to do things like they'll run Kickstarters or like Patreon campaigns, so that way they can get their fan film fully funded. And I know that Star Trek or Paramount, I should say, and I know that Disney have really started to like tighten the screws on all of that, because they don't like seeing people make money, even if that money's going right into the fan production, not seeing people make money off of their intellectual property. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They call the copyright laws in the U.S. Disney laws.
Yep.
The Disney domain laws, because they were the major group that was going behind that. Yep. I know that we've got we're starting to come into the end of the show here, and we've got a third topic.
Should we touch on that and just kind of run this a little bit long, or we want to hold off on that till next time, because we can still do it, or we can wait. I'm good with either one. What do you want? Rich, what do you want, buddy? Whoever else is with us here too. What do you tell us in the comments? What do you want? Should we go? We got the last one. Should we do it? Yeah. Or should we bury the lead and come back next time?
Yeah, we could dedicate the whole show to it as well. I will say I've picked just one of the just one because it fits.
Okay, we're here. We're here. Just do it. Let's just do it.
Okay, we're doing it.
Just do it. We're doing it.
We're going for it. We're doing it
overtime. We're going in overtime. We're gonna do this.
Right on. Well, why don't you kick us off? And now I almost feel like this is like a Karnak moment. Like we should write down like what it is, and then see what each of us. Neither of us know our picks.
No, we didn't talk about it before, which is unusual. We usually do, but okay.
We normally do. So I'm interested in seeing what you.
I actually have one written here, but I crossed it off to pick something different because I wanted to be a little different. I picked a character named Cut Locane. And I don't know if anybody recognizes that name. So we meet him on Seleucami in one of the episodes of the Clone Wars. Rex and his troops land there post-battle. And Cut is a clone trooper that defected. He just pulled a Kaiser Soze and he just left. He's married, he has kids, and he's living, and he's a farmer. And he's just a farmer on this planet, and he's getting along in life. And Captain Rex and his crew meet up with him. And initially, some of them are like, dude, what do you do? You cannot be here. How dare you leave, abandon us, and all these things. And it's a really good character development episode specifically for Rex. His squad as well, but really for Rex. It's one of the first times, in my opinion, that we really see Rex forced to be in a room with humanity and what it means to not be part of a war and not be really a clone, just be a human that is living someplace. Because Cut, hair's growing long, like literally he's living on a farm. He's married to a Twi'lek. They have children. They're just a family. A cool thing is we do actually meet them again in was it Rebels? No, it wasn't Rebels. I think it was actually what did we meet him in? The Bad Batch. We actually meet him at the beginning.
I was about to say, aren't they in the opening of the Bad Batch?
Yeah, they're actually in the Bad Batch. We meet them in the Bad Batch for a period of time, which was really cool to see that character brought back in for those purposes. It was really amazing to see that story arc conclude in that way. In any case, what I love about his arc is, and I would love to see something bigger blown out. Like, what happens to Cut? Somebody who is a clone who says, I can't do this. What happened to make him go, because he's a fully grown clone. He clearly was in the field in battle, and he just said, I can't do this. How did he do that? How did he get out? How did he get away from everyone without them tracking him down and realizing he was gone? And then go get married, meet someone, get married, have kids, and go start an entire life. Like, how did he do this? How did that even come about? What challenges did he have to deal with? Did he encounter anybody else along the way that might have tried to push him to go back? I'd be really curious to see something like that. I don't really have any theories about what that could look like, but it was just an interesting one that I'm like, I would love to see. Again, the real people in the galaxy sort of story, like the Star Wars story, like what happens to this person in real life.
I like that. Again, I'm a sucker for the side characters that are there that have a really great family story, that are just trying to survive, that are just trying to get by. And I think that's a great pickup. I actually think that they should keep that going into the Bad Batch. I think it's a really nice connection. I love it when Star Wars is very self-referential and it
Mm-hmm.
goes back. It's
Yes.
almost like it kind of adds to the narrative thread,
Mm-hmm.
and it respects its own canon. Which I'm not someone who's like a gatekeeper, and I'm like, oh, canon, canon, canon. But I really do like when there is references that are like that, or when they have something like Thrawn come into the live action universe. So yeah, like I think that I really like that idea.
Awesome.
Um,
Okay, what's yours?
so mine is probably very very simple. It is a very simple Clone Wars story arc, but I'll explain kind of why I'm picking it. And so I'm prefacing it. So I'm trying to go really big here because it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty obvious. So I grew up with only the original trilogy, and I remember when I was in high school and the news that the prequel trilogy was going to be made. It was announced, and I was super excited, and couldn't wait for the episode one teaser. Was the first teaser that I ever downloaded onto a computer. I mean, it was like
Mm-hmm.
it was so cool because it was so mysterious. We didn't know a lot about the prehistory of Star Wars, and all we really had were a couple of like comic books, which I had. Like I had this comic book of Obi-Wan writing a young Obi-Wan in an all black outfit, like he's some type of space cop, writing, trying to solve a murder on like an intergalactic cruise ship. It was insane. It was like we only had like bits of these stories. And one of the things that was often talked about, other than the fact of Obi-Wan being a clone himself, Obi-Wan, like there would be Obi-2 and Obi-3, that Obi-Wan had this really big life that he was that the reason why it's actually kind of sad that he's living alone in this little cave, this little shack, is that he actually was kind of a big person back in the day. And that's why everybody knows him. That's why even Grand Moff Tarkin is like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And so there was a lot of like speculation that he had this life and a family, and all of these things were taken away from him, including a wife. And there was this idea that there was a Lady Kenobi, like his wife, Lady Kenobi. And a thing that I love that the Clone Wars did is they filled in the time between episode 2 and 3, and that's great. And to some extent, I feel like they even made the characters bigger than they were by the time we re-meet them in
Mm-hmm.
episode 3, except for Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan always seems to have a lot of depth. He had a lot of depth in the original Star Wars. He had depth even when we meet him in the Phantom Menace. And I really like the history that is supplied between Obi-Wan and Satine and the conflict
Oh,
on
yes.
Mandalore.
Yes.
And I feel like there is not, and we've talked about this, that some of the greatest stories are ones where you have a character who is in conflict with themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and the weight of regret, of the life that could have been, and having to live with decisions, and that is what you get. And it's funny because it's a microcosm of what's happening between Obi-Wan and Satine is happening on Mandalore, in their larger struggle of their future, of decisions they've made in the past, and what that means for their future, peace or war. And I like the sparring. I like the characterization of Satine. For those of you who don't know the background on this one, it's that Obi-Wan and Satine, the Duchess Satine, she has this. They have this history, this relationship that they've had, And of course, as we know, the Jedi are forbidden to have any type of attachment like that. It actually affects them so much that we see someone like Anakin fall to the dark side. And I like that there is this character who is big enough to tempt Obi-Wan in this space. And I don't mean tempt like some type of apple, knowledge of good and evil, that kind of. I mean like make them think maybe there's another life that's worth living. And I think about people that often then put duty ahead, but have to put duty and their responsibilities. Oh, whoops, hit my mic. Duty and responsibilities ahead of what they want, and that's what kind of makes their story so great, and it's what makes it so tragic.
It is, yeah.
So
I mean, Obi-Wan in that regard is really interesting that way. I love that. That's cool. I love Obi-Wan, so it's perfect. Awesome. Yeah. We got through that one actually pretty quick, which is cool. I know we have so many more we can talk about. I have a bunch more that I want to go through. But for the sake of time, we're going to wrap up for tonight. Before we do that, though, we teased it on the last couple episodes for anyone watching. So, quick reminder before I give you that thing. There it is. Subscribe right there. Put the big button.
Yep.
Playing again. So please subscribe. We would love to have you subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate you sticking with all of this. So I teased it before. So this is one of the latest books. I was mentioning it earlier. This is called The Rising Storm by Cavan Scott. It's part of the Star Wars The High Republic series. It's pretty obvious by the banner that's on all the new publications of any kind, comics or otherwise, have this big banner so you know it's part of that series.
Yep.
We're giving this away. We're giving this book away. So I had thought of a couple ways we can do this, so I think it'll be a little bit fun. We're gonna make it a good time. 3 things we need from everybody. I didn't put it up on the screen. We'll post about it later. 3 things we need from everybody. Got it right above my head here. If you look straight up above me, you see the stuff above me. So follow us on both Instagram and Twitter at the Kessel Chat. So I want to see people following us on those 2 social channels, please. It's a huge help for us anyway. But the contest is, the way you get put into this raffle, follow us on these 2 channels, and then in this show, in the comments below, once the show's live or post live and it's up there, what I want you to post is, I wrote down here, post in the comments, your first Star Wars memory, whatever it was.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, follow us on social, Instagram, Twitter, both the Kessel Chat. And then in this show, please post, just put in there, what was your first Star Wars memory? Whatever it was. And then in about 2 weeks, hopefully we'll have our next guest on in about 2 weeks when we do that show, because we're going to be taking a break next week. We'll get into that. Ryan can talk about that here in a sec. In about 2 weeks, we have our next guest on. We will raffle this off and I'll ship it to you, and you can enjoy this book like the rest of us.
Yeah, I really encouraging everybody to do that, and more than anything, I'd love to hear people's first their Star Wars memory, the thing that really kind of connected them with Star Wars. If it's not your first, maybe we can also do it in a future giveaway, in a future episode, even talk about our favorite Star Wars memories. Because I'm happy to talk about going on Star Tours the first time, my very first trip to Disneyland. Oh my gosh. And when I was a really little kid. When I saw C-3PO, man, I thought that was legit C-3PO.
I lost my mind. So just for everyone to know, so next week, next Thursday, we will not be having a live show. I'm on vacation. I think Ryan's got some stuff going on. So we're going to rebroadcast an episode we did previously. You'll see that next week. And then we're working on some new guests and things. So got new content coming up. But next week, we're just taking a quick break, and then we'll be back the following week. And then lastly, we're coordinating with Brandon, who was on our show last week, to do a separate live stream on Instagram coming soon. So we're working out the logistics, but we're going to do, probably of this book, we're going to do a book review and maybe talk about some other stuff. So that should be a lot of fun. It'll be something we host on one of our Instagram accounts. We'll talk live. We'll do a book review. It'll be a fun conversation. So keep up for that. Just a reminder, if you want to win the book, follow us on social, post a comment below, subscribe. And if nothing else, we'll see you all here really soon. Have a great rest of your week.
Good deal. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us.
Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.